Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for FCI Live 2024. We are on to our second week, and we only have today and tomorrow to go, but we have some phenomenal sessions. I'm so glad you were able to join us for this one. This session, Cultivating Black Food Sovereignty with Dr. Jasmine Jackson for the National Black Food and Justice Alliance, as some of you know, when you tried to register, is maxed out. We have only maxed out registration once before in the history of the series, and this is one of them. So I'm really glad you're able to be here with us. Real quick, I want to thank our champion sponsors. We have a lot of different sponsor organizations, thanks to all of them, but especially to our champion sponsors, Cultivating and National Co-op Grocers, who have made this series possible today. All right, so I'm going to let Dr. Jazz get her slides set up, and I'll give you a little introduction. We're really excited here to have here today Dr. Jazz from National Black Food and Justice Alliance, who has been a long partner of Food Co-op Initiative. We work together on the up and coming conference that happens live and in person that maybe some of you have been to. We hope you've come and enjoyed. They host and organize the incredible Black-led Day, which happens the day before the main conference, and do just some incredible work. So it is really hard for Dr. Jazz to make the time to be in here and do things like this. So we really appreciate that she's come out to share about their mission and their work and how they see food co-ops and startup food co-ops specifically as a powerful part of their work for Black food sovereignty. Thanks so much for being here, Dr. Jazz.
No, thank you, JQ. I definitely want to start for thanking you for putting this amazing series together, not just this year, but definitely the years before, and always your consistent commitment to build community together. I appreciate also all of you for joining us. It is a morning session, as JQ mentioned. And if you're also just listening to the recording, thanks for making the time and all the work that each one of us are up to. So today I am actually going to be sharing about who the National Black Food and Justice Alliance is. I know some people are familiar with us. I'll refer to it as the Alliance, but I'll share some of what we're up to and why. And then I'll also share some ways to engage with us when there's time at the end. I also want to have some engagement from you all because I'm most interested in learning about your visions for Black food sovereignty or food sovereignty in your community and how you're bringing that to fruition. So one thing before I get started, I always like to note that you will hear me say Black a lot, but that is in no way meant to be exclusive. I want you to know that I feel that when Black people win, we all win. So with that, I'll just get started with a little bit about me. Feel free to call me Dr. Jazz. I am a New Orleans Ninth Ward native. I come from a long line of New Orleanians who are hard workers and caregivers. And I moved back home to New Orleans after spending about 6 years in Alabama. And I received my master's in community planning and my PhD from the illustrious Tuskegee University, and it's in integrative public policy and development. So my dissertation research really focused on local food systems and how they create community and economic development. And my personal belief is just that your life expectancy shouldn't be determined by your zip code. So I've been living in the Ninth Ward, working in the Ninth Ward, and witnessing vast food disparities and how we're constantly faced with lots of challenges that are stem from food apartheid. And I'll give that definition about food apartheid in just a second because I do want to share that. But I just want to name that I come to this work with lots of lived experience, and I'm deeply engaged with food and land work in all aspects of my life. You see on the photos here, I'm married to a fifth-generation farmer from Tuskegee, Alabama, Terrence Jackson, and we're working on the sixth generation. I'm 35 weeks pregnant today, so forgive me if I'm a little winded or spacey. I'm going to try to stay on my notes to continue to bring to you what I hope to share. So let's get into it. Food apartheid, why we're here, because I want to start with, this. And this is a definition that you can find on our site. We're at blackfoodjustice.org. We have a Black food glossary. And I'll share more about that later. But the food apartheid, how we define it, and Dara Cooper actually lended this to us, who's our co-founder and former executive director. And it states food apartheid is a systemic destruction of Black self-determination to control our food. And that includes our land, our resource theft, and discrimination. And it's a hypersaturation of destructive foods and predatory marketing. and a blatantly discriminatory corporate-controlled food system that results in our communities suffering from some of the highest rates of heart disease and diabetes at all times. And I know many use the term food deserts, but however, food apartheid is a much more accurate representation of the structuralized, racialized inequities that are perpetuated through our current system. So if you don't already use the term, I definitely encourage you to adopt it. But I want to share more about who the Alliance is. So we are a lot. It's not just me, of course. I'm the co-executive director with Cicely Garrett. But at the Alliance, we know that our work would not be possible without cooperative models that have been set forth before us by resilient Black farming communities, dating way before the 19th century, but definitely showing up in the Black power movements in the 60s. So we're a legacy. We know that a legacy of Black people, and we're audacious enough to actually confront that violence with organization. So we're breathing life into current movements and fighting to protect what's right, what's ours. So, and we recognize that there's so many different intersections of violence. And in the wake of 2014, when Michael Brown was murdered, the Alliance was actually established. So recognizing that violence among the police system, also in our food system, but now we've developed over 50 member organizations, and we're aiming to develop Black leadership, support Black communities, organize self-determination, and build for institutions for Black food sovereignty and liberation. We're representing hundreds of urban and rural farmers and organizers and land stewards, and we're nationwide, but we're working together towards an intergenerational and urban and rural movement, and we're mapping, assessing, and training, and definitely deepening the organizing and institution building so we can continue our advocacy work protecting Black land and going towards food sovereignty. So just want to show you some of our members here. Different times that we're together in person always makes it more rich for the work that we're doing often online as in virtual spaces. But when our members got together, when they founded this organization, they created a problem statement that's really still relevant today. And I just want to share that. And then I'll get into how we're trying to address that problem. So it's on the screen, but I definitely want to read it out loud. And we live under a crisis moment, and it's dominated. We live under a corporate dominated food system that prioritizes the maximization of profit over human life. And the system is extractive, exploitive, and deeply anti-Black. And in the US, we have witnessed the systematic dismantling of Black land ownership in both the urban and rural contexts. And at the same time, our Black food ways, why we eat, what we eat, and what it means are disappearing. We lack access to and control over the production, distribution, and consumption of food that is healthy and grown in ecologically sustainable ways. And we live in the aftermath of deindustrialization, the gutting of the infrastructure, and the withering away of the social safety net. So this was written by our founding members, as I mentioned, and it's definitely still relevant today on why we're addressing the issues in the way we are. So just naming that, it does, I feel like, yes, we started a little heavy, but I want to get lighter because what we're doing together is actually building sovereignty. So in what that looks like, the Alliance, we view sovereignty as like the ultimate goal, and we know that it cannot be achieved without confronting the question of governance. So we're working to ensure that Black people not only have the right, but the ability to control our food. And that means not just through production and distribution, but knowing that the governance has to be rooted in like healthy and culturally appropriate food, and also ecologically and sustainable methods. So we're working to define our own food and agricultural systems, and knowing that we just can't name that right. We also have to assert that through action. So we're moving to shift from like an exclusively rights-based framework, so like civil rights and all the different rights, but more of a collective framework of governance where the community powers is at the center, and we're working and consuming at all points on the food chain. So more over the demands instead of like corporations and markets. So, and we know that we can actually achieve this sovereignty through democratic and people-centered forms of governance. So, and the way that we're doing it is actually through organizing people, building institutions, and amplifying culture. So the work of the Alliance this is like how we're trying to make our impact. And I named the organizing people because we know that transforming society, it requires deep and sustained ideological and strategic mass-based organizing. And those tactics have always been at the center of confronting and shifting power in Black communities. But still, years of institutionalized anti-Black racism and deliberate fracturing of the Black communities, it has eroded the infrastructure of Black-led social justice organizations and a Black organizing base. So we believe that if we center transformative organizing and it allows for the creation of long-term strategy, it not only transforms the systems, but the structures, and also further transforms society and how we exist in the world. So we're currently organizing people through our campaigns and our working groups. We currently have 3 of those working groups: the policy table, Black Land and Power, which you'll see, and also self-determining food economies. And the goal for the self-determining food economies overall is really to increase our capacity of Black-led sustainable food systems. And we want that infrastructure that includes the supply chain and the co-op retail work. And we want the goal overall to weaken the impacts and the dependency on that industrial and corporate agricultural system I mentioned earlier that we're suffering from. So in order to do that, we definitely have to build those institutions because we want to move away from that. And so we engage in building our institutions, and we center like struggle and leadership and solutions. And we're ultimately creating entities and space that allow for us to build our collective power and advance in ways that are strategic, and they're aligned and they're rooted in our collective and historical wisdom. So the Alliance, we could continue in the tradition of Black institution building, and we know that this is one of the most effective strategies for building power in our communities, and maintaining these institutions that are dedicated to building this Black leadership, these strategies, and innovation around food and land. And doing so, it actually builds the food security infrastructure, and it has the capacity to identify issues and develop and implement strategies. And we're systematizing these solutions around Black food and land struggles. And we cannot do that without amplifying our culture, which I feel like all of our work is done through a culture lens. And we're honoring and uplifting our ancestors. We're archiving our historical knowledge and our practices. And we're also amplifying the work that's being done today to continue to carry that torch. So when I'm saying today, because the problems that we're faced with are definitely not new. So I'm just going to name that I am a big proponent. I'll come back to the co-ops that we're working with about how the history of co-ops is Black. I just want to name, that none of the problems that I just mentioned, they aren't new. And if you haven't already picked up a copy of Dr. Jessica Gordon's Nimhart Collective Courage, A History of African-American Cooperative Economic Thought and Practices. I just want to share literally 2 quotes. They're on pages 25 and 28. And it's really around how early co-op efforts have been around collective resistance. So the book states, in every period of African-American history, in every period of American history, African Americans have pooled resources to solve personal, family, social, political, health, child development, education, burial, employment, and investment in cooperative ventures in ways that have leveraged and maximized returns and reduced risks. The cooperative solution is one that has addressed these same conditions throughout history. And cooperative ownership helps address the challenges of capitalism, marginalization, and labor, capital, and product markets, and the lack of adequate, affordable, and quality services. Their current conditions that we're under require alternative solutions, and cooperatives are, again, a solution. So that's from Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart. Definitely want to encourage you to continue to dig into that history and how the history is there, and we've always been doing this work. So I know that a lot of the things that I'm mentioning, we're picking up the torch. We're not doing something new, but it is revolutionary in how we're continuing to do it. So I want to go back to a couple of our co-ops just because this work is not alone. And I just want to name, this is how you actually can lean into some of the engagement with the Alliance. So we have, not all of these are members. I think Fertile Ground may not be an official member, but we definitely work with them with the Collective Courage Fund. But these co-ops, and there's definitely over 50 members of the Alliance, maybe in your region, and there's ways to support them. You don't have to financially support them. You can share resources, you can share development opportunities. There's opportunities to volunteer. So I'm just really excited to continue to build with these co-ops and see them open and sustained. And it's just exciting the work that everyone's up to. But I just want to name, if you haven't already checked out our website at blackfoodjustice.org, you can definitely see if they're members in your network or neighborhood, and then also email us at membership@blackfoodjustice.org. But also just wanted to just share with that amplifying culture, as JQ mentioned earlier, we do plan and host the Black-led Day at Up and Coming, and one of our first in-person gatherings, we did a short clip. It's about a minute long, and I want you to hear from the co-ops about what they feel that cooperative, why we're doing this together. So, actually need to stop sharing because I don't think you can hear my screen, hear my sound.
One. Last one. 3, 2, 1.
It's great to be surrounded by, Black people who look like me, who also have a passion for supporting their communities.
We're at the Gym City Market Co-op in Dayton, Ohio.
The Northland Food Market.
Shared Capital Cooperative.
North End Cooperative Market.
I'm with Gangsta Girls, Sweet Soul, Kwanzaa, and this is my team.
I definitely believe through my community development work that food, access to food education and access to healthy food is an extremely important stepping stone and bringing back ownership to the Black community and circulating the Black dollar. So I see it as more of a piece in the intersectional development of our marginalized communities, and I think it's very important work.
My freedom dream is to live in a world where we acknowledge the dignity and worth of every human being, and we're building structures that affirm that.
I am just enthusiastic about us really putting unity back in the community and coming together and having that ownership and power.
So thank you for that. I'll definitely just continue to name that we have lots of ways to be engaged. I'm excited about the ways that the Up and Coming Conference has continued to be a platform for us to think together, strategize, and actually implement some of the things that we've been dreaming about. And this is one of those, the Rethinking Market Studies research report. So back at that 2022 conference that you just saw some pictures, we had a session with a banking institution and wanted to learn more about, what it looks like to have Black-led cooperatives supported in their startup phases when the market studies are telling a story that they won't be successful. So this research report also comes with a communications toolkit, and it's just really exciting to hear that we did this. We thought about this together in 2022, launched it in 2023, and did lots of I can't remember how many interviews with just different cooperators, not just Black-led co-ops, but also researchers who develop market study research, funders who apply, supply funding for this as well. And just to hear that the narrative does need to shift, that we know that Black people buy food in their communities and their neighborhoods, but the ways that it's on paper or sometimes presented for the sustainability of a store in an area that hasn't had one, in over 50 years or so, what does that look like, and how do we move towards success? So this is just the start of that, and definitely want to share. This is a way to continue to engage with the Alliance. If you check it out, check out the resources. Like I said, there's a whole communications toolkit as well, and just let us know what you think, how it could be useful, what else we need to continue to add, because this is definitely something that we're doing together. So this is a link in the chat. You can check it out on our site. And then also on this link, you'll see our Black food justice glossary. So I mentioned a couple terms earlier, like Black food sovereignty, land justice, food apartheid, all of those things that we actually have listed, not just in a glossary text form, but also in an interactive way where you can listen to interviews, you can chat with people, you can watch clips from old talks and what there's just so many different ways and layers in this glossary that was created by Isis, formerly our communications intern, now our communications coordinator. Just excited to share this resource as we continue to build. So just naming that if there are more terms that you want to see defined or that you feel that you have some interest in inputting on, definitely let us know. And you'll see all the ways to do that on the Black Food Glossary, which is also on that website that I have in the chat, just at blackfoodjustice.org and under our media tab. And then I want to name also our Black Food Map. So the map for the National Black Food and Justice Alliance is actually how I came to this work. I started as consulting after finishing up my PhD, and it was named that members wanted a map of like where they are, who they're working with, how's food moving, like how do we continue to create the system, but recognizing that we already have so many assets. So excited to continue to build Black food sovereignty in that way and amplifying like what we already have in existence. So you'll see that also on our homepage of our website. Just scroll all the way to the bottom. It says Black Food Map and Directory. And if you aren't already on the map, I definitely encourage you, if you're a Black food organization, it doesn't have to be a co-op. You can be a farm, you can be a business that supplies food or is a food hub. There's different aspects of the Black Food Map, and you can definitely be a part of it. So feel free to check that link out or share it with someone who may not know about it. And definitely want to big up the call that we partner with FCI to do this monthly Black-led co-op call. So this is one of our last ways I'm just naming to get engaged with us, because we just had it on yesterday. It happens every fourth Tuesday of the month at 4 p.m. Eastern, but the next call is on February 27th. And we have a quarterly structure with that call. So each year we decide what topics we want to focus on and dig deeper into as Black-led cooperators to learn from each other and with each other. It just feels really good to be able to be in a shared knowledge space. And right now we're digging into engagement strategy. So like, what does it mean to be engaged with not only your stakeholders, but also your owners, your community, and just different levels and how and why, and creating some actual goals and objectives towards moving your co-op forward and where you all want to be. So excited to have been in conversation with many people, and then things are just, I feel like, aligning. So if you're interested in being a part of that call, you may already be on the invite list if you came to Up and Coming in 2023. I invited all of the Black-led cooperators there as requested. But if you're not on it, you can email me directly at Jasmine, Jasmine, at blackfoodjustice.org. And you can, get on our call list. Even if you can't make it in February, we'll definitely have the notes and things shared, most times the recording as well, but always the resources that come from it. And then last but not least, I really hope to see you in 2024 this year at Up and Coming. This will be our 4th annual Black-led Day. And be on the lookout for if you want to host a session at that on that day, because we usually kick off the conference in the beginning, and we have some intentional sessions where we've been leading up either towards it for the year or want to plan for something for the following year. But if you're interested in sharing some knowledge that you have or resources, definitely be on the lookout for a call to submit session proposals. So this will be the first year that we've done that. Typically it's just for members within the Alliance, but want to honor the request that we've heard for more people to be able to share in that space as presenters, and want to acknowledge all of the wealth that we already have together. So I'm going to pause there because I really wanted this to be a time for us to share, and I want to hear from you. I'm most interested on hearing, how are you like visioning food sovereignty in your community, and what are you actually doing to bring that to fruition? And as you'll see, Baba Malik with his kale, my mentor, shout out to him in Detroit, all the people, what up though? Thanks for continuing to pave the way. So I'll pause there, and I actually stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you.
I was going to throw out there, if you want, Dr. Jazz, if there's anyone who wants to be on the mailing list for those peer calls run by National Black Food and Justice Alliance. If you put your email in the chat, I'll comb those out and send them to Dr. Jazz. So you don't even have to remember to email her. So if you throw your email in the chat, I'm going to assume you want to be put on that list and send that email to her. All right. So we have questions, comments, places we want to jump in. Dr. Jazz has a question for you. What are you doing about food sovereignty?
I know y'all are all up to some amazing work.
Hola.
Hi, Angela.
So I'll just jump in since nobody's saying anything. So thanks for that shout out. I'm in Detroit in Highland Park. And I'm a part of the board for the Detroit People's Food Co-op, which is opening this year in a few months. I'm also obviously a member of DBCFSN. So I'm just excited. I mean, this has been, as some of you know, a very long journey. Now going on 14 years. We were reminded at our recent membership meeting, 14 years of planning and working towards this goal of opening up the Detroit Food Commons as well as the Detroit People's Food Co-op. So I'm just excited. And I can say today, because I recently got a new job, I'm going to be the garden development manager for Keep Going Detroit. So I'll be helping gardeners and farmers in the city to develop their plots to get more land. I'll be working with the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. So it's just an exciting time for us. We're all moving towards this thing that we have been talking about for a long time. So I'm just excited. And thank you so much, Dr. Jazz. And congratulations, Felicidades, on the new edition that's coming soon. And it's great to see everybody on here. Gracias.
Yeah, thank you so much, Angela. Thanks for the work that you're doing in Detroit, and excited about Keep Growing Detroit to keep getting that land off the speculative market. Hopefully more land stewards can take access to that and provide food for our local system. So can't wait to see those products on the shelf when I come to D-Town.
Hey, gracias.
In the chat, Nikki has shared that she can't speak right now, but in Chattanooga, they're at the funding building stage of opening their food co-op in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and looking for a location and doing a market study. So moving that co-op forward.
Congratulations, Nikki. Hope you all secure a location that is right for your size and that the market study is as intentional as it needs to be and actually shows what you all are up to. So I would love to stay in touch and hear about that process.
All right. Others.
Hi, this is Asada. Sorry, I'm in transition, and but thank you for this work. Amaha, who is a comrade, friend, and mentor to me, talks about the Alliance all the time, and it's hope for the Alliance. I am in Houston, Texas, and we are working with my partner is a public housing community in Houston, Texas. And so we are working to convert a corner store that the housing authority acquired due to some, challenges with the corner store and the effect it was having on the public housing community. And so we're working with the housing authority to secure that property to really be the landing ground for our food co-op. We're starting, and we're part of, FCI, which is how we got here. Really grateful for JQ. I called JQ at the last minute when she was about to close it out, and and she got us into the cohort program. But so we're trying to make the argument that this store, which has a commercial kitchen, is a testing ground for the food co-op. So we're really trying to really balance out, and I think JQ in this conference, this convening has helped us thinking about this in different ways. But we're really trying to balance out the treetops, right? So people who, have power and resources and connections, which we need with community members, and trying to really engage and educate our community members about the co-op, the value of the co-op, but also the responsibility of being part of a food co-op. So we're really at the mobilizing stage and trying to figure out the balance between, mobilizing and then, converting, seizing, identifying structural opportunities. So we work with a medical school that is a new medical school that's near the neighborhood, and they've taken on the food co-op as a priority to address, food sovereignty. And to your point, I've been sending everybody like, information to stop saying food security and say food sovereignty. So I'm trying to educate people and to adopt a more self-determining, systemic focusing way that we talk about this issue. So we're just trying to get the right balance between, people with power, influence, and resources, and people with passion, commitment, and impact. And yeah, and so we're excited and hope to come to the conference this year and just build our network and our relationships. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Asada. I know the Black Urban Growers and Farmers Conference will be in Texas this year, in 2024. So even if you aren't at the Up and Coming conference, maybe I'll be in your space sometime later on. But just naming the work that y'all are doing is amazing and right on time with like I mentioned, the topic that we're thinking about and working through in our Black-led co-op calls that are monthly. And we're thinking through that engagement strategy. What partners do need to be in the room? How do we influence them in ways that we can, continue to build community together? So that's really important. I'm excited to hear about the work in Texas.
Thank you.
We got a lot showing up in the chat. I'm just going to invite you. Do not have to, but Dawn, would you like to unmute and share, or would you like, if you don't unmute, I'll share it. Okay, so in Cleveland, Ohio, we are fine-tuning our mission, hosting pop-up markets, expanding the opportunities for EBT produce perks, and developing a marketing and branding strategy right now. Whew.
That's a lot. Y'all are up to a lot in Cleveland. Excited to see that, especially around the EBT produce perks. I know we didn't get into all the work the Alliance is doing, but we definitely have like some policy work as well, where we're advocating, for the SNAP benefits to not just be a state issue. I think it's more of a federal where we can double the bucks, not just at farmers markets, but also at food produce purchase and purchasing food produce anywhere. So that it does include at co-op. So I'm excited to hear about y'all opportunities as people are finding creative ways to expand that access.
Carol, do you want to unmute and share, or would you like me to? I'll pause, and if you don't unmute, I will share it. Okay. Well, in the chat, Carol's sharing that La Bodega Fresca is in the very beginning stages of co-op, becoming co-op. We're hoping to lift up, this is really interesting. We're hoping to lift up the cultural corner stores in our neighborhoods. The organizations that are helping us mostly point toward opening in a competitive way with existing stores. So have very capitalist branding goals, and we do not have the mentoring or building up the existing business and more sustainable food economy. Our knowledge on organizing neighbors for this type of food access. Any suggestions?
Yeah, thank you, Carol, for that. I heard Asada saying that they're transforming a corner store as well. So definitely want a name to reach out to people who are already into doing something similar. Yeah, I feel like we always have to meet people where they are. Sometimes people have a definitely very capitalistic mindset. But I simply just name that cooperatives, from my personal perspective, is a non-extractive way to exchange goods and services. That's it. That's all. So in the way that you're, trying to gain that knowledge on organizing or, share that knowledge on educating neighbors in the community, I think just starting at a base ground, having a core set of people and then developing more people as you go along, but just being really clear about what you all see as a co-op, what your goals are together and how you want to impact the community, and staying strong to that too, because sometimes, as you know, funding or opportunities come around and sometimes try to shift our mission or, the ways that we go about things. But I definitely just want to name that it's not going to be easy. As you heard, Detroit, 14 years in, we're hoping to make that timeline shorter with some of the tools and, narrative shifts that we're working on now. But definitely want to name, connect with people who are already doing the work, get a core group of people together to ensure that y'all are doing it. There might be already people in your neighborhood who's doing something adjacent who may be interested in joining and supporting this work happening. But best of luck, but always feel free to reach out to me. If you email me and say that you want to set up a call, we can definitely do a one-on-one and I can, get a little bit deeper.
Got a bunch of good stuff popping up. Bronzeville Growers Market, do you want to unmute and share, or do you want me to share it?
I can. Okay, this is real awkward. Okay. Good morning. Yes, we here in Columbus, Ohio, have been somewhat successful over the last 10 years in building urban farmers. So we've moved people from passion to profit, as we say, from backyard growing and providing services to some of the social services agencies, the churches, the pantries, and that kind of thing, to looking at farming as a source of income. And then once we did that, we said, well, we have a responsibility to assist in providing outlets. So we've been able to do that through a few grant programs, as well as the development of our own farmers market. And the next step is a grocery store, because the area has lacked one as a red line community for over 30 years now. They're our corner stores. You know the story. And so we have really looked at how do you successfully develop a cooperative model. So we've had discussions with the Dayton folk. We've had some discussions with other Malik came down here over the weekend for a meeting, and we're really trying to do our homework to make sure we develop a successful model that speaks to our experience here. And that's it.
Thank you so much for that. Columbus is doing some amazing work. I'm excited about Ohio. Y'all are definitely putting it on the map. And it is difficult when you say the story. It's so sad that that's just the case in so many places. Yeah, we know the story of the disinvestment, the redlining that has been institutionalized and perpetuated now still through current investments through the city and municipalities. So excited to hear that y'all are transforming that and, developing urban farmers, and they're able to have those outlets for those markets.
The one asked me to share the question. It's an interesting one. How has National Black Food and Justice Alliance avoided mission creep? There's so many demands from so many directions. How do you guys look at that?
Wow, I've never even heard the term mission creep, but I think we struggle with this all the time, knowing that food and land is so intertwined with so many other just sectors of the world. So we really just have to stay focused. We have our strategic plan that we just updated for 5 years. So one of the goals that I mentioned is directly from that. And we have to just continue to recognize and remind ourselves, even though we do get approached with a lot of different opportunities and collaboration times and just like resources even, but is this aligned with our goals and our mission? And is this going to bring us towards food sovereignty? Is this going to further our land justice? And in the event that it's not, we can definitely pass it off to a partner, or maybe be interested in at a later time. But knowing that food and land is already so vast and wide. So just trying to continue to keep that not just like blinders on the side, like they're kind of open, but just knowing that the things that we engage in, especially funding, like we don't currently have any federal funds at this time, and knowing that the funds that we do have are unrestricted to do the work that our members have requested of us to continue to build on. So I feel like that's a really a big privilege that we have to have the unrestricted funds and be able to navigate our own path, but knowing that also it can get really willy-nilly in that event, knowing that means, well, we're up to whatever we want to do, but continue to be focused on what our original intention was is something that we always have to be reminded of.
So thank you for that, Dr. Jazz. And JQ, thank you for asking the question. I didn't realize it was going to prompt another question. So are there resources on your website? So in DC, I don't believe that we owned our land. So in talking about community wealth building and food sovereignty and land justice, I don't know how I apply that here. I am on the board of a land trust, and they talked about a land lease fee, but that's how they're set up. I don't know like how the co-op structure would do that, but I want to tie in, and this is all going to make sense in a second. I want to tie in the reparations conversation to gaining our land back, because we know across the country, we lost our land. It was stolen when we immigrated north. People came in, stole our land in the South. I don't know how to apply that to DC, but I want people to connect the dots and see how all of this leads to community wealth building. But I don't want to do it because a funder is saying that this is what we should talk about. And I don't want a funder to guide where we choose our location. I don't want a funder to guide how we move forward with hiring people and all of that. So that's where the mission creep, but connecting land justice and all of that. That's what I'm looking for help with.
Yeah, definitely, Luan. Thank you so much for that. When I hear DC, I immediately think about Dreaming Out Loud. Chris Bradshaw's out there. He sits on our leadership team. Will be an amazing conversation to have with him about how to continue to connect that. And I'm definitely on the same page. Our land justice like goal overall. We know that over 15 or 19 million acres have been stolen from us, and we want to regain that. We want to not just like own it, but we want it to be removed from the speculative market. So we've been really clear about what that means, what that looks like. And we're still working on the mechanisms. So like, if we're going to hold that land, if we're going to, of course, we don't need 15 million acres, but like how our members have that, are we building up the land stewards to actually, as Asada mentioned, like actually having those urban gardeners and growers and rural farmers to be able to sustain and steward that land as well. So I definitely encourage you to check in with people in DC, like Chris Bradshaw, and I'm sure he can point you to more people in land trust and the work that you're doing to connect the work with the co-op. But I think overall, just being really clear and solid on like where you're standing, where you're going, and then inviting people to support that. So not having funders like you are supporting their mission, like inviting them to support yours and the work that you're doing. So I know that y'all are up to some great work in DC, and it's the South to me. Everybody, it's just it is what it is. But I definitely excited to hear about how the land back structures are working.
Got a quick question from Anthony, and then I see Asada's hand up. Anthony has asked if any of our co-ops had success in getting recognized by the municipality for their public benefit they provide to the community.
If any co-ops on the call want to share, they've had success in that way, I can share from the Alliance perspective too. Maybe not, but definitely hearing lots of relationships with city council members, aldermen, state representatives, in Chicago area even. I think they just got a Black farmer. I don't know if it's a farmer week or whatnot, but it was done by some Pembroke, Illinois, right outside of Chicago area. But just naming that it is being recognized in a way that it's making an impact. I don't know if it's recognized in a way that's not just a photo op or a publicity opportunity for the politician. So that's always a hard balance to name, but the public benefit for the community, naming the community and economic development that co-ops bring has been something that people have been getting on board with, and being able to get resilience funds or like things, different departments of the city are tapping in and, being supportive of different efforts. So if anyone here wants to name a specific instance, feel free, but I've been hearing some traction, especially as we're coming in on election season.
And I know Asada had her hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in regarding to the community land trust, I happen to chair the board of our community land trust in Houston. I mean, and I think, you know, I mean, there's opportunities for community land trusts to really hold land, you know, as a model that pairs with the cooperative, right? And so thinking about community land trust as a strategy, I'll just say in Houston, we were able to make an agreement with the taxing authorities to only tax the improvement and not the land, right? Which provides permanent affordability. And also the land trust in itself has the opportunity to provide some support, you know, for food co-op, you know, or for, you know, a farm. And so I think there's really interesting ways that we can partner the model of the two. We do know that land trusts, though, or like food co-ops, though, some of them are social justice oriented and some of them are not, right? And so it's really about, I think, developing and cultivating those relationships. And I think JQ, I mean, just through our sessions, I just really realized that it's a lot of education that just has to happen for everybody, right, around this work, which can be exhausting. But I think the most important piece is really building that understanding that all of these strategies for Black people lead to self-determination, right? So all of these strategies is about self-determination for Black people and ultimately liberation, right? So I think for me, I think like we're trying to be liberated from these systems of oppression, and we need self-determination for that liberation. And so that's then saying why we need to work together for the land trust. And sometimes that's educating people to understand that's the history of this work. See, that becomes the problem. I just want to say this because we get reintroduced to it. And that's why Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart was so important. Because when I got introduced to this, I had to make it about social justice because it didn't come from a lens of Black lineage, right? And so I had to always try to convert it, and that made it hard and things were lost. But if we can get it at the root of the source, then it makes it stronger when we engage other people around it. So I just wanted to offer that, and I think we're in the cohort together. I'm happy to offer any support I can around the community land trust.
Thank you, Asada. I'm excited for that connection to be made and how we can continue to support each other. I also dropped a link in the chat, Dewan Agrarian Trust. I know that Brother Duran Chavis in Richmond, Virginia, has been really successful in removing some land from the speculative market through that organization, and they're continuing to partner. So just another example of not too far from you in the DMV.
Thank you.
Absolutely. JQ.
Darius has he said he'd like me to share it. He says, I'm working on a community food security project that revolves around a K through 12 charter school in Jacksonville, Arkansas. And this is making their focus agriculture STEM. What are some of the ways to utilize this schoolwork as a way to build community-centered cooperatives? And also, can I share the link to the story map?
Yeah, thank you, Terrius. I'm excited to hear about the youth work because definitely need to continue the future generation and instilling that knowledge. I know Asada was just mentioning all the education, but it really starts young. So excited the K through 12 agri-STEM program is happening. And honestly, a way to build a community-centered cooperative is meeting with the community, asking the students first, what do they see that they need or they're missing, or what are their dreams, or what do they deserve? Like, I think just starting there and listening to them, and then inviting their parents or relatives and allowing them to organize from within, like from the school, like through the youth. I think that'll be a great opportunity to build whatever type of community cooperative that's needed, because I know a lot of us here on the food retail, but there's so many other cooperatives that even just support that food retail co-op that can exist. And that can be a packing co-op, that can be a transportation co-op, that can be a value added, some type of co-op. I know I mentioned earlier Gangsters to Growers. They're formerly incarcerated youth that actually create hot sauce and grow the ingredients with local farmers and bottle that and sell to different cooperatives, but they are also a co-op. So just naming that there's so many different ways. And I think the way that you can start is listening and allowing them to lead through organizing.
We have time for a couple more questions or conversations if folks want. I was going to mention real quick, Terry's too, we do have a co-op that has a high school education project. They run their own food co-op for snacks and stuff inside the school. If you want links to that at some point, just drop me an email. Lori?
Hi, I don't have a specific question. I just want to say how helpful this has been for me. So we're in the early stages of talking about what we need to do here in Springfield. So our vision comes from a local community activist who was sadly lost her life last summer. And some of us are trying to carry on her vision. But as we're speaking, we're coming to the conclusion that she didn't necessarily intend food co-op brick and mortar store. She, that was a very high level thing. So we're talking about options. And this has been so helpful in what we need to consider. So we're at a point where we've got 20 or 25 very passionate people working on this, but none of us live in the community that this will serve. And we're struggling to find those community members that we will need to go out into the community and talk. So this has been very helpful. Until we find those leaders, I want to educate the people who are currently involved on issues like this, because we need to understand all of this as we're searching for all of these leaders. So I just want to say how helpful this is. It really has my mind going. And JQ, I want to talk to you, and Jasmine, I might want to talk to someone in your organization to see if you can steer us and focus us a little bit. So just want to say this has been so helpful for me hearing all of this. So I appreciate it.
I'm happy it's helpful. Excited to hear that y'all are, working on building more community. Lori, and best of luck. Feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
And we have time for maybe one more. Angela is next.
Yeah, so I just had to say this because I figured, I was like, maybe this is the right group. I know this is a safe space. So as you know, we've been really vocal about our Detroit People's Food Co-op being Black led. We don't apologize for that. We're Black led, community owned. But in the recent, I guess last few months, even year, we've gotten some pushback about saying that. And so, maybe you all can provide me some information about language that we can use. But we've gotten it from both sides, from Black folks and non-Black folks, about using that terminology.
Yeah, Angela, that's definitely a tough line to stand on. I definitely have also received pushback, from people that look like us and that also don't look like us. But just naming, we have to be like intentional about naming that and working towards Black leadership, because it's been so intentional to be removed. Like we've been removed from it. So I just feel like continuing to have that mindset and like reminding people like we're not that far off, that people were bombing Black led stores and throwing, destroying their businesses because they were Black. Like it's not like we're far from that, and naming that we're still in a space that we're trying to not just reverse, but like mitigate a lot of these health concerns and things that we as Black people suffer from the highest. So when I always say that, like, oh, my zip code shouldn't determine my life expectancy, is because I'm at a 66 life expectancy or 62 in my zip code, and 15 minutes away in New Orleans, where a majority white neighborhood, they're at 82. And it's like, that is not even acceptable. So naming like this is still perpetuating right now. Like I continue to come to that conclusion. Like we have to be intentional about the ways that we are setting up our structures and leading in a way at the forefront, because we've often been, excluded. So I'm interested in continuing the conversation. And yeah, if there's anything you want to do, feel free to reach out, Angela. I know you have my contact.
Yes. Okay. Gracias.
Did you want to unmute and share that, West Georgia, before we wrap up?
I think that's Eric.
Yep. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Oh no, it's all good. Yeah, the statement is there.
Yeah, the statement is that we don't have to apologize. We can stand on it. Like people are saying, stand on that business. We're standing on it. I think just continue to share your framework and like why, because sometimes people's why are different, and be curious and lean into their why. Like, why do you think we shouldn't, acknowledge and lead as Black leaders, or, uplift that and develop that? Like, I think that's also a great way to lean into conversation with curiosity on why people feel are doing the pushback.
Good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Last one, JQ.
Yeah, well, we got one more minute here. If anyone else wants to hop in with a comment or a question.
I do want to say that, we have a co-op and we are Black led and Black centered. And we do think a lot about the kind of ratio of the number of non people of African descent in our group, and what that does to people's ability to understand their power. And then we do have an understanding and agreement that those who are not people of African descent, that they have to be willing to support the leadership and to defer to the voice of people of African descent. And so it is a challenge, but we really lean into it. And, we keep that ratio at a certain level, just because we know historically people of African descent, people in general would defer to people who they think are more knowledgeable, because we have internalized racism. That's what I'll say. We deal with that internalized racism. So I just want to say I appreciate these conversations, and I appreciate even more boldness in us dealing with the realities and the impacts and the trauma of white supremacy combined with patriarchy on how we do the work we do.
Yeah, thank you, Asada. Thank you so much, JQ, for having me. If anyone wants to reach out, again, I'm Jasmine at blackfoodjustice.org. If you want to learn about our membership, we're membership at blackfoodjustice.org. We will be reopening this year. Keep on the lookout for sure. And thank you all for all the work that you're doing and continuing to move towards this food sovereignty.
Excellent. Thank you so much to Dr. Jazz for being here and sharing with us about the work of the National Black Food and Justice Alliance. We are so grateful for your time, your knowledge, and for you being here today, especially since you got a little one on the way. I do want to let people know that today we have 4 sessions. This was the first of 4. We got a lot of conversations happening today. And the one tonight, Getting to the Root, Co-op Community Organizing, was with Maha Selassie from Gem City Market, Darnell Adams, and Bonnie Hudspeth of Firebrand Cooperative. That's the other one that's threatening to max out. They have let me raise the registration rate a little bit, so there are a couple more seats. But if you want to be there tonight, I would jump over to our website, ASAP. And please, 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 I'm going to go get the link as soon as I can stop sharing screen. We will email you a survey. It takes 1 minute. But when you fill out that survey telling us how the session went, we know what you want to see more of. We make a better thing. And we also can use that information to help us get funded so we can keep doing this for free. So if you can just give us that 1 minute and consider that kind of your tithing for attending these, we would so appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. I'll go grab the link in a second, but it will be coming to your email box in just a minute. And thank you to our sponsors again for making this entire series possible. We could not do it without you. We really appreciate it.